lot of ways, I think it does vary by state and by region and also by sector. So I'm based in Eastern North Carolina. The vast majority of factory farms here are hog farms and poultry farms. And those are part of a system that we would call a vertically integrated system, where essentially there is one entity, think Smithfield or Purdue or Prestige or, some of those names that are fairly common household names at this point, that essentially own everything on these farms and dictate the conditions to which animals are grown on these farms. To give you an example, the hog farm that's 2 miles up the road from me, it's a Smithfield facility. And so Smithfield is going to bring the farmer the pigs when they're small. They're going to bring all of the inputs, so the food, the medicines. They're going to determine the veterinary schedule for how to raise these hogs, how to care for them. Smithfield owns the hogs. The farmer is just essentially their caretaker, right? Raising them. When the hogs reach maturity and are ready to go to the slaughterhouse, that is a Smithfield owned slaughterhouse, they are driven there in a Smithfield truck by a Smithfield driver. So you see these big integrators essentially controlling every step in the process. We see that more commonly in hogs and poultry than we do in dairy. But, one of the big issues with hogs and poultry being raised in this way is that you previously had, a small independent farmer who was owning the animals that they raise. They're not doing that anymore. They are raising these hogs for these big, massive integrators. And the only thing that the farmer at the end of the day owns are the two things that are the most costly to deal with. And one of those is the barns, and one of them is the waste from all of these animals. And so it really does disenfranchise your independent farmers who, previously were able to make a living running a small diversified farm. That is next to impossible in this day and age. My understanding with dairy in places like New York is that you do a little more frequently have a farmer who is independent, who is managing one of these big dairy farms. And so not contracted with a Smithfield, right? The farmer actually does own the cows that are on these farms. So in some ways, they are a little more family owned than what you would see in hogs and poultry and much of the rest of the country. But the problem continues to be the scale, right? Regardless of who owns these animals, when you are raising this many animals in confinement, there's no way to avoid all of the harms associated with these practices. The other thing that's happened over the course of the last several decades is that our farm policy has shifted to favor these massive industrial operations, and it's very hard to survive as an independent farmer.